Thank you. It does feel like a big deal, you know, like the first one and first meditation. So I guess it's worthy of noting that that's where we are. So away we go.
Away we go.
Yeah. So I know we've all been deeply impacted by the news in the last weeks. We learned recently that Mr. Arbery, a Black man, was just, you know, merely jogging down a residential street in Georgia. And he was followed and gunned down by two armed white men who decided he was a burglar. And of course, the news for the last week has been so very disturbing, watching the video of the Minneapolis policeman who kept his knee on the neck of George Floyd while he was handcuffed and laying face down. And before Mr. Floyd died, he kept saying, "I can't breathe." And there was that interaction in Central Park where, thank goodness, the Black man who was only just, you know, bird watching was unharmed, thank goodness. And the white woman who was falsely accusing him was shown to be both a racist and a dog abuser. Now, I know that every one of you, I know you, every one of you is sickened by these stories, just as I am. The reason I bring it up is to ask us to not let go of our connection to these events. It's so easy to see this as abhorrent behavior that is somewhere out there, unconnected to me. We have been raised and soaked in an environment of both subtle and overt racism. And we have been raised and soaked in the idea that we are all individuals. You know, that we're in a nation of rugged individualists. And as such, unconnected to each other. And these two concepts seep into our thinking in ways that are just so easy to not notice. It kind of becomes the air that we breathe. And the guide frequently tells us that our lower self nature holds us in dualism, that very thinking of me against the other, us against them. And we know how dualism and that dualistic thinking plays out in our life on a daily basis. What I'm beginning to so clearly see is that for liberals, it's easy for us to stand on this moral high ground. We know it is abhorrent to threaten or harm or kill a person because they are Black or for any reason. And our actions and our words are against racism. I'm just going to say that again. Our actions and our words are against racism. What I'm asking us to do is way more difficult. I'm asking us to look deeper into ourselves for those areas where we do separate ourselves from people of color. To look at what ways we hold ourselves as superior or separate. This attitude can float beneath the surface of our rational mind, so it's not easily noticed, because we don't really want to see it. It is ugly. I have recently come face to face with these racist thoughts and feelings within me. And this realization, I can tell you, just brought me to a dead stop. and to my knees. It's very hard to look at this ugliness, not because we're bad people and not because we're lurking racists. It is simply because we have been raised in a country that is racist. Our lower self nature is part of us, and much has soaked into us without our notice. What I have come to see is that it's our unwillingness to face what is true at the very core of us. And that somehow energetically helps to keep the system of racism in place. So my question for a time of reflection is, I have two. How connected do we really feel to the Black men and women who have been murdered? And are we brave enough? Do we have the courage to ask to be shown our own racism?